Hi guys, it's Craig Tompkinson here again. Today I'm going to do an oil change on my old 80 series, 1990 80 series, 1HZ motor. She's just not far off, I don't know if you can see in there, not far off 800,000. Now I'd love to say it was an original motor, but I was having heating troubles with it when I bought it 8 years ago. I bought it for just under 5,000 and it had 550,000 kilometres on it. And as far as I was aware, it was unopened then. But it was having heating troubles, so I've since then put a new head on it, better radiator in it. Everybody cracks up about these old cheap aluminium radiators, but that's been in there 5 years, coming up 6 years. Been many trips to the Cape on wild roads, no troubles at all. I just carry a tube of Sikaflex with me, the same as if you got I had brass ones in here and they cracked and you have to solder them, so you got to carry that gear. With this I just carry Sikaflex, let that set for 24 hours and that'll get you out of trouble. And I think I paid 300. You can buy these radios for a couple $100, but and that's delivered. But today I'm just going to drop the oil out. I just need, for that you just need a an oil filter. I must point out I'm not sponsored by these people, nor have been given to me. You need an oil filter, a 14mm spanner, a filter remover, a container to pour the oil in with. I just use ice cream containers. Again, I'm not sponsored by Mobil. This is the third oil change I've done with Mobil, because I'd say 45 years, might even be 50 years, my family use Celtex, and they don't make the oil anymore, so their agent in Gympie put me onto this Delvac 1540. And a grease gun, because I'll give the universals a grease. That's just a multi-purpose blue grease in there. Now I won't show you, I just got this container here that I drop the oil into. I crawl underneath there and I drop the sump plug. Unlike you see on every other show that puts a brand new sump plug gasket under it, I haven't. In 50 years of changing oil, I've never put a new one on there. If it's got an aluminium one or a brass, little flat brass copper washer on it, that should do the life of the motor or the vehicle. Alright, so I'll stop my ranting and raving, and first thing you do is you undo this. I like to use a milk crate, so I can stand up there because I've got duck's disease. Undo that, just give that a little tap, just lightly. Now that lets the air in so the oil will run out. I've taken this truck and I went round and bought this oil filter this morning, so it's had a 15-minute run and the operating temperature's up. I run a aftermarket temp gauge, the one that's hooked onto the block, so it tells you the temp of the motor. Takes a little while to come up. There you go, so she's 56 degrees. So that's nice and warm, that stirs the oil up. And when you drop her out, that takes all the particulates and all the impurities that's in the oil is all stirred up and drops out. I actually, when I had this head off, I honed the bore, put big end bearings and rings through it, and when I pulled it apart there a couple of years ago, might be 3 years ago now, I was expecting to have sludge all through the motor. It was spotless. The sump on it was as clean. I washed it out with petrol and I don't know why it was that clean. The intake was clean. They are just a brilliant running motor. I change the oil and filter every 5,000 Ks or around thereof. If I'm on a big trip somewhere and I haven't got the facilities to drop it out, I'll let it run out to 10 or 9. But it does not burn oil, so it could go out to 10,000 easy, this motor. Even at 800,000, but like I'm saying, it's had new rings and bearings through it. It's basically been rebuilt. Alright, there's nothing much else I can show you. That's all you need for a start. I'll drop the oil out and have it draining into there. Okay guys, Now while that oil is draining out, you get this, I find these are good, these straps. And there's your oil filter there. You put your strap over him. That way, sorry, because he's got to go, he comes around, it's going to be hard with one hand. And you just unloosen him and screw him off. When that container underneath there is just about run out, I'll move it over so it catches 90% of the oil. Try and be a bit environmentally friendly, but I try my best. But this is an old motor. She weeps around the back of the motor, around the back of the block. I put new gaskets on them, new half-moon gaskets. You get 20 or 40,000 Ks out of them, 60, 80,000, and they start weeping again. I've spent a lot of time working on Toyotas. My father had the one of the first Jeeps in our district, and he had one of the first Land Rovers in our district. Ray Hempsel, our neighbour, had the first Toyota I can remember. And being farmers, we've had four-wheel drives all our lives. I'm 58 and I've only ever owned four-wheel drives. My wife's we've got two cars there, but they're originally my wives. Wife, not wives. But yeah, she just, I got one of those Glyn hot water exchangers on her, I showed you that. She's due for new on the next service, because I'm going up the Cape or the Gulf. On the next service I'll do, I just done the timing belt the other day, and on the next service I'll put a new set of belts in her. I'll check the water pump. Yeah, the water pump feels still good in it, eh? Although it's got just a little bit of movement there in that bearing. I probably should have put a new water pump in it when I did the timer belt, but it's only going to do another 10 to 15,000 Ks, you know. I'll see how it goes. If I'm worried before I go on a big trip, I'll just take the water pump with me, buy a new one. But probably not. Yeah, but alright, I'll get on and do that. I can't really show you and film that at the same time, but yeah, you just screw that filter off. Righto, I just pulled that out of the box. There's your oil filter. I like to get a bit of clean oil and I wipe around that O-ring. Then I also put a little bit on the thread. Now, I know these motors do a lot of Ks, but I don't know why don't they have that filter going on that motor that way. You could fill that filter up, screw it on, and it's pumping 3 times quicker than what the way it is set like that. You know, you can't fill it up. So even though these things fire up quick, and if you're looking after longevity and want your motor to do 1.5 million Ks or 1 million Ks, even though this motor will eventually probably do that, they're the little things. If the oil filter was screwed on from underneath, but that's probably the trouble. They're a bit hard to find a spot for them. They weren't really designed good that way. But anyway, other than that, it's been a brilliant old girl. I've done about 230,000 with her, 250,000 Ks with her since I've owned her. Yeah, I've got a GVM upgrade on her over there. She's had a new windscreen wiper motor fitted. That was given to me. I'd love to go lithium batteries, but they're just prohibitive cost at the moment. But maybe one day when these ones bugger up the next ones. I run nearly pure coolant in this old girl. I run 2 5-litre bottles of 1,050 glycol mixture, and seems to help her a lot. It still has the bit of water that's in the block. You can't sort of get them out of them. I think my tap is buggered, so I can't drain the block, so I try and get in there and blow as much of that out, and when I do change it with the compressor, get as much as I can out. I take the thermostat housing off, and I get the hose in the top there and I blow it through the block and it blows a lot of the moisture and everything out. But that's what happens when you buy second hand. These things happen. Another good tip, these, when you buy these aluminium radiators, they come with a little screw-in bung in the bottom of them and very easily knocked out. I just put a bit of sicker on mine so they don't unscrew. That little, well, they get that stone out of there, they could rub. But yeah, all right, I'll get on and put that filter on. I like to get a rag, get this rag like that, wipe that excess oil off down in there, that clean rag, wipe it off that that face there, so it's got no, so it seals nicely. Get that filter that's had a bit of oil on the toe ring, and you just screw these on by hand. I'm sure you've seen other videos saying that, but you don't need to do them up tight. Just the main thing is to run them. When you run them up, bring them up, start the motor, let them idle away there, give them a few revs. They're going to leak, they'll leak straight away. I've only ever had one fuel filter, a oil filter. I won't say the brand. There's a very good brand. Could have even been this type, but I don't think it was. And it leaked under this brand new filter, and it leaked out of that seam. So I'm not one to stick to genuine. I do want certain things, but I found the aftermarket parts on these trucks, and like I said, I'm not affiliated with anybody. I'm not sponsored. I'm not given anything. I'm actually a writer for a fishing magazine. I have been for years. Everything I've ever done, I've either done it at cost. Some people have given me something that costs, but I still have to buy it. And that hasn't happened for years. There's a lot bigger fish in the ocean than me now, and I wasn't ever a big fish anyway. But like I said, I only use these is because that's what the Keltex was. I used Keltex, like I said, for 45 years, probably longer. 58, and I can only remember we having Keltex. It was funny, we used Keltex oil but Mobil grease, because they were the cheapest with the grease in town. We used to buy it with a carton. But I think the next lot of filters I'm going to buy online and try them. You can get them for, I paid, what was that, from the local, $29. I do get 10% off, but anybody gets 10% off if they buy any amount of stuff there after a while. Yeah, what's that, $29, take off a couple of bucks, and I can buy them same filters, $13 landed at my door through the post, and they're the same brand of filter that I bought and was using off this same chap down the road here for years, but he's changed to these Westmar one now, whatever they are, Max. They've been good. Westville, yeah, been using them, but they're just creeping up and creeping up. Every time I go there, the price has gone up. So yeah, you can buy them in a dozen for about 140, 50 bucks. We can get 4 for $50 delivered to your door. I'll start that, see how they go. After having a really good quality filter, do that to me. They're all much of muchness. All right, I'll turn this off and I'll put the bung back in. See under here, I've had the bung, taken the bung out, the oil's been catching, it stopped dripping now. So I'll go and put the bung back in. Like I said, I don't put a new washer on that bung. My old one is stuck to the bottom of the sump. I just give them a clean up, wipe them clean. Then at the same time I'll grease it, and I go around. This old girl weeps a little bit here and there out of the transfer box and stuff like that, and at the same time I'll just pull the bungs out and check the oil, top them up. In the back diffs and front diffs I use 140 LSE, and gearbox I use 140 in the transfer because she's getting old. In the gearbox itself I use as again, I'm not sponsored by them, Penrite GL5 Pro GL5 oil, 75/85 smooth shift. It's changed this box in this truck. It's beautiful now. I was having trouble changing from second to third, third to second. For 4 or 5 years since I've been using it, it's brought this box back to. But I do drop it out every trip. If I'll run around here now, and before I go up to Cape or Gulf or whatever trips I'm doing, I'll drop it out and I'll put new oil in the gearbox and the back diff. And I always change the oil before I go, depending on, even if it's got a couple of thousand in it, I'll just drop the oil out and put a new filter in it. But like I said, I've got to do these belts. I may even change the water pump yet. I should have done it when I did it, but oh look, that water pump's felt like that's from brand new. So I've got a post on here for my boat winch. Alright, I'll stop yabbering and get to the job at hand. Okay, good idea when you're going to pour some oil in there, just have that rag around it. And if you spill a bit, you can just wipe it up straight away. I know from experience with this, they're supposed to be 2 litres, but you fit about 1.5 litres in them. I put 5 or 6 of them in, maybe even 7, and then I check the dipstick, and yeah, you'll have no oil, and then all of a sudden it's full. So yeah, just keep dipping it, keep an eye on it. I like to just pour it in one at a time, give it a little spell. That way you don't fill this tappet cover. If you pour it, like get a 4 or 5 litre and whack it in there real quick, this motor might handle it, some of them don't. They'll fill up, pop out there, get a great heap of bloody oil, comes out there, when you fire them it gets sucked straight in on top of the valves, and they smoke. So you just pour it in a bit steady, let it get away. These probably, I think these have got big, from remembering when I put this head on, it's got big oil ports that drop it back straight through the motor into the sump. But like I said, yes, these gaskets on them, they only last a couple of years and then they start to weep. But it looks like a lot of oil, but it's not. It's just a weep. And you know, luckily here in Queensland we don't have to put them over the pits. If you put them over the pits every year, you'd have to take that off and clean it up and give her all a good clean down before you took it in. Although having said that, when I took this up to the engineer to get the GVM upgrade, now these 80 series early ones are supposed to have the small brakes and terrible brakes. He said, that engineer in Maryborough, Luke, said this truck had unreal brakes, better than some of the new ones on the market. So I don't know what you blokes out there are whinging about. This truck to me has always had unreal brakes, but I've always put new rotors on it every few years and Bendix brakes. Again, I am not affiliated with anybody or paid by anybody. I just found that the Bendix brakes were as good as genuine, but half the price. So I like a lot of the stuff. I would use Toyota. Toyota gear is great, but every time everybody says to me, oh no, get Toyota filters. Well, they're 50 bucks, 40 bucks. Brakes at 3 times the price. You know, sure, they're going to last. Oh, if Mr. Toyota wanted to hand them to me, I'd take them, but it's never going to happen in my lifetime. And shivers, my family's had dozens of Toyotas. This is my 4th Toyota. And I've done 250 on this one, 250 on the other one, a couple of hundred on the Hilux. Actually, I've had Hilux. I had 250 on me. I had a Hilux, 82 HJ47, HJ75, 89, and this one. So I'm getting close to 1 million Ks, if not more, I've done in Toyotas, and half of that would have been in low range, easy. A lot of it was on the highway, but those first few vehicles I was farming, so they were just in low range and four-wheel drive for days and weeks on end. I wouldn't even take the hubs out. But this is more of a town vehicle. This one's done half and half, probably I've probably done a third in low range in this one, so she's done a 50 or 100,000, 50,000, 80,000 in low range, and the rest is on the highway, four-wheel driving. Might have done a bit more in 4-wheel drive because I went on the dirt roads I always drive, and high range 4-wheel drive, put the hubs in, drive on the rough corrugations and high range. Alright, I'm going to put a bit more oil on there. Let's just slowly fill her up. Okay, I've got a fair bit of oil in there. I'll check the dipstick. Now, you can't see that, but it'll be 10 mil above the full mark on this old girl, and I know from all the Toyotas I've ever owned, that big filter, which that's probably a litre of oil, and that big filter will take at least a litre, if not more, to soak into all that filter stuff that's in that the paper or whatever, that magnum, whatever they call that filter stuff. The oil has got to soak into that so it can pass through it, and it'll take up, and there's a valve on the bottom that stops the flow, but when they get on a bit, that lets a bit of oil out, but not everything, and you've got to fill that filter up as well. So I like to keep them pretty full, because like I said, she's an old motor, she weeps. What I'll do when I'm finished here now, I'll fire her up, she's ready to go. Oh, don't be like me and forget to put the sump bug in somewhere. So you have a look underneath. Have a look underneath. No, she's not all run out on the ground. I've done that before when I was a young fella. Back when I was 17, changed the oil in my Hilux the first time. I was so excited, I did everything. My dad showed me, my brother showed me what to do. Forgot to put the plug back in. And yet I'd already changed the oil and dozens and dozens of times on my dad's gear, his vehicle, farm machinery. But it was my first brand new Hilux and I got a bit excited. Alright, I'm just going to check to see if there's no spanners laying around. See, that was laying there. Put that back in there. Okay. That oil can stay down there, she's not going to move. I haven't even got her in gear, I've just got to sit there with the handbrake because I want to I just fire her up. Now the light's just there. Just sit here and wait. Whoop, there she goes, she's out. That means she's pumping oil. Now I just come around here and I'll just give her a little bit of throttle. Just let her build up there, just purr away. Now just check it down there around that filter. And that big filter there, and you just check it now. Make sure she's sealed. But a lot of the times if you haven't done them up tight enough or done something wrong, they'll leak right from the word go. Righto. She should have pumped that oil up, switch her off and I'll check her. And she should have dropped back to that full mark. Pretty well spot on. Sometimes I might have to add another half a litre. So I actually run mine up a bit above the dipstick because these old motors, they weep a bit on the seals. Mainly she weeps a little bit out of on the gearbox seal because I'm running that thin oil. She's a bit dirty around her, but you just got to keep an eye on them. It's your truck, you just top them up, costs bugger all. She weeps out of the, I thought it was the head gasket, but it's the half moon key on the back of the head and it comes down out of her there. Now she's weeping, but I'll just get a can of degrease, which I've got, and I like to do the motor every second, so about 10,000. I do the radiator and the motor, air conditioner, radiator. I hit them with degreaser, let them sit for a few minutes, and then I hose them out gently. And Bob's your uncle. No, he's not. He used to be my neighbour. But yeah, she's done. I'll switch this off. I know this is going to be. I'll check that again. Wipe that on a bit of clean rag because that's just putting stuff into the motor. But it hasn't got to be hard to do hanging onto a camera. Because I was too lazy to get a stand, and it's hard to get a stand. I'm not a paid professional. If I was getting paid, there you go, she's just below. See, from experience, I'll whack another bloody half a litre in that donk and she's right to go. Now I just get an old bottle like this, cut the top out of it, I put my oil back in the same 20 litre drum I bought it in from a couple of trips. Oil changes ago, just tip it in there. Now when that's full, but it's good these days, you can just take it to the your local rubbish tip, or we can in the Noosa Shire. Costs you nothing. You just take it, tip it into a vat. You can bring your drum home if you wanted to put your oil back in. And yeah, I just took some down the other day. I had a few drums, but that's about it. She's done. I've put the extra oil in her. Now I'm going to go around and give her a squirt with near my shed where the hose is. Give her a squirt with engine cleaner. Let that sit there for a little while. I only do the engine. This up in here, that looks dirty, but that's all rust proof. That's tactile sprayed in there. When you spend as much time on the beach as I do, you either do that or they go rusty, especially this truck's a 1990 model, so a lot of years old. And to be honest, it's got one little bit of rust here, which is nothing because I keep painting it, and that was in it when I bought it and it stopped. See how in here I've drilled all these holes in it, and you get your tactile and you spray it. I pulled all these out and you spray up in here, up in here, up in there. There's another hole. I pulled all the interior out and sprayed the whole floor. Yes, but just here, just in there, there's a little bit of rust, and it has not moved since I've owned the car. I give her a paint myself. She's pretty wild. Don't look at that. That only cost me a few $100 to paint it, if that, a couple hundred. And she's rough. That's all I've got her for, is a rough four drive. I can take up the cape, I can take bush, I can scrape a big log down the side, and I haven't spent 140 grand setting it up. It's just an old girl that gets me there. You know, people spend so much money on their four-wheel drives just to take them to the same spot, and they get there flop a few hours earlier than me. Anyway, it's all about, I suppose, prestige and money and what you can afford, but I can buy one, but I just don't see the point in spending that money on the same thing. It's only got a motor and 4 tyres. Alright then, I'm done. Keep this old girl on the road, because I got a family of 6. She's a 6-seater, so I got to have 6 seats. So yeah, she's the 3 in the front. And oh well, I hope you might have learnt something from this. I know it's pretty basic stuff, but blokes out there that just bought them and never changed the oil in them. Now this oil, it cost me $100 for the drum from the depot. Sometimes I get them on special for 90, 95, mainly 100, bit over 100. The oil filter was 28 bucks, but you, like I said, you can get them online for $13 delivered. So if you poked around, you bought a spanner, another 20 bucks. Even if your first oil change you'd never done one before, it cost you a few bucks. Bought an old container, picked up one of these at the dump, cut it in half to catch your oil. You know, the first change is going to be 150 for yourself, and then after that you got all the gear. I don't quite get to it takes me about 12 litres to change an oil on the old girl, and so yeah, 25 litres would be spot on for me, but they're only in 20s. But I buy 2 drums, so it doesn't matter. And yeah, you get you know, for 100 bucks, not even that, 50 oil, 25, yeah, so less than $100 you can change the oil yourself, and you just keep the oil up to them around that 5,000. Depends on what you're doing. If I'm doing a trip, I drop it out earlier. If I'm on a trip, I let it go a little bit longer. It all pans out in the wash. Okay, I just give her a squirt straight up with that cheap degreaser in a can, like 2 or 3 bucks it is. I just sprayed that motor around there, try not to spray it on too much, and let it sit for a few minutes, and I just hosed her off. I do the radiator too, give it a good flush out. That's what keeps the old girl cool. Look at that in there, nice alloy radiator, just shining now. It's amazing the amount of dirt and stuff that gets in them. Knocks the performance out of them, just a fraction. Yeah, so all right, she's done another 5,000, and I checked the oil, she's good. Yeah, all right, thanks for watching, hope you learnt nothing. I'll catch you later.